ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलान् श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणरघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सह गणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ॐ उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नृसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्युं नमाम्यहम्। श्री नृसिंह जय जय नृसिंहदेव प्रह्लादेश जय पद्मा मुखपद्मा भृङ्गा। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवति उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। हरिः ओम्। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna, Hare
Let me
Krishna.
let me know if the audio is clear.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so give me 1 second. So I was thinking, as we are approaching the very auspicious appearance of Lord Nrsimha Dev on the Nrsimha Chaturdasi, which is coming on this Sunday, to tune ourselves, especially from Srimad Bhagavatam, that we understand the importance of Lord Nrsimha Dev, his blessings, his potencies, his leelas. And for that, I was thinking, okay, though we were reading third canto, chapter 20, we're supposed to read 20, but there is a logical transition actually between third canto to the seventh canto. Yeah, I'll explain after reading this verse from the seventh canto, chapter 2, verse number 7. श्रीनारद उवाच भ्रातृव्येवं विनिहते हरिणाक्रोडमूर्तिना हिरण्यकशिपो राजन् पर्यतप्यदृशासुषा. Here, Sri Narada Muni said, "My dear King Yudhishthira, when Lord Vishnu, in the form of Varaha, the boar, killed Hiranyaksha, Hiranyaksha's brother Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry and began to lament." So here we can see, yeah, yesterday we have concluded how Hiranyaksha was killed in the hands of Lord Varahadeva. And here Narad Muni is actually asking Yudhishthir Maharaj this question, what happened? And in fact, in the Purport, Prabhupada is writing that Yudhishthira had inquired from Narad Muni why Hiranyakashipu was so envious of his own son Prahlad. If you see from chapter 1 from Canto 7, there is this question that Yudhishthira is asking Narad Muni, how can a father be so cruel that he can punish his son? Or actually, he was so envious that this is where actually this narration begins, where Narad Muni is going to explain to Yudhishthira Maharaj, Aha chedam rusha purnaha sandhasta dashana chadaha kopajvalabhyam chakshurbyam nirikshan dhumram ambaram. He's saying, this Hiranyakashipu is filled with rage and beating his lips. He gazed at the sky with eyes that blazed in anger, making the whole sky smoky. Thus he began to speak. He was saying, so here Prabhupada writes that they were Hiranyakashipu's external bodily features as he considered how to kill Lord Vishnu and devastate his kingdom Vaikuntha. This is the mood of the demons. They always want to destroy. They cannot tolerate. Of course, there are people who are publicizing that Hindus uh, are having all these, but yeah, we are not Hindus, so we don't have. We have a different mindset. We have a different way of dealing. We have different way of thoughts and work. So we need to punish Hindus. I mean, of course, in those days, Hiranyakashipu was thinking, whoever is a demigod or a devotee, for him, he considered him as enemy. Kalaradamष्ट्रो दृष्ट्या दुष्प्रेक्ष्य भ्रुकुटीमुखः शूलम् उद्यम्य सदसि दानवान् idam abravit. He's saying, exhibiting his terrible teeth, fierce glance, and frowning eyebrows, terrible to see, he took up his weapon, a trident, and then began speaking to his associates in the assembly. Bho Dhanava Daiteya. Anyway, this goes further. Dimudhyam uh, Trayak Trayaksha Sambhara Satabahu Hayagriva Namuche Paka Ilvala. So he started calling all, oh Dhanavas, oh Daityas, oh Dimurdha, Traksha, Sambhara, Satabahu, Hayagriva, Namuchi, Paka, Ilvala, and Viprachitti, Puloman, Shakuna, and other demons, all of you kindly hear me attentively and then act according to my words without delay. Sapatner gatita Kshudrair Bhratra me Daitayat Suhut Prashni Grahena Harina Samenapi Upa Danavaihi. So he's saying Danava Naihi. My insignificant enemies, who are they? The demigods have combined to kill my very dear and obedient well-wisher, my brother Hiranyaksha. Although the Supreme Lord is always equal to both us and the Devatas, the demigods and demons, this time being devotedly worshipped by the demigods, he has taken their side and helped them kill Hiranyaksha. So here, what is happening is Hiranyakashipu is building a case so that his case can be strong, and for that he is building a logic. And logical reasoning is that this Lord Vishnu, he is a Pakshapati, though he should, because he has created both, he should have given equal care and love and punishment. Everything should be equal. So, in fact, Hiranyakashipu is bringing from Bhagavad Gita 9:29, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu. The Lord is equal to all living entities. Since the demigods and demons are both living entities, how is it possible that Lord was partial only to the demigods? This he didn't like. So demon Hiranyakashipu accused the Lord of being partial because the demigods worship him. But in fact, the Lord, like the government, is not partial at all. Government is not partial, it is just reciprocating. If one is a good citizen, he is allowed to enjoy the privileges. And if one is not behaving well according to the law, then he is punished. The punishment is only should be seen as rectification, correction, and transformation. But what happens here is Hiranyakashipu is just pointing out Tasya Tyakta Swabhavasya Griner Maya Vanaukasha Bhajantam Bhajamanasya Balesya Va Stiratmanah Machulya Bhinna Grivasya Bhurina Rudirena Vai Akshra Priyam Tarpa Isye Bhrataram Me Gatah Vyata is challenging. He is saying that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has given up his natural tendency of equality towards demons and demigods. Although he is the Supreme Person, now influenced by Maya, he has assumed the form of a boar to please his devotees, and in the form of Varaha, Uh, just as a restless child leans towards someone as a support, I shall therefore sever Lord Vishnu's head from his trunk by his trident, by my trident, and with profuse blood from his body, I shall please my brother Hiranyaksha, who was so fond of sucking blood. Thus shall I too be peaceful. Mm. Of course, we can go into more details, but here we can see that Hiranyakashipu is taking a Bhishan challenge. What is he saying? In the purport, Prabhupada says the defect of the demonic mentality is expressed in this very verse clearly. Hiranyakashipu thought that Vishnu also became partial, like child, whose mind is not steady or resilient. So, but reality is different. The reality here is that Hiranyakashipu became blind because of his pain that his brother was killed, and out of envy that he couldn't realize his position. And rather than he is saying the Lord is partial, the Lord can change his mind at any time. Hiranyakashipu thought, and therefore his words and activities are like those of children. So he is giving less. Uh, if one is dharmic. If the Lord is dharmic, then he should stick to his own law or whatever is the law. But here he's changing just like a child who is not just so strict in following his uh, resolve. Actually, because the demons are ordinary human beings, their mind changes. And being materially conditioned, they think that the Supreme Lord is conditioned also. The in Bhagavad Gita 9:11 it said avajanati mam mudha manushim tanmashritam. So people think that Lord is a human. That is out of foolishness. Demons always think that Vishnu can be killed. Therefore, being absorbed in thoughts of Vishnu's form to kill him, at least they have opportunity to think of Vishnu unfavorably. This is a very important point, which we can also see how it grows. And when we go to the seventh canto, 10th, ninth chapter, we can see how it is confirmed. And in fact, Hiranyakashipu, out of so much unfavorably, but still thinking, attains. Here we see, although they are not devotees, their thinking of Vishnu is effective, and thus they generally attain Sayujya Mukti. Hiranyakashipu accused the Supreme Lord of having a restless mind like that of a small child who was induced to do anything if simply offered some cakes and laddus. Indirectly, this indicates the true position of the Supreme Lord who says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. This means, yeah, Lord is very pleasing. He will be very easily pleased if one offers with love and affection. And of course, this is also what Hiranyakashipu, though he didn't realize what he's saying, but also he's confirming the same. तस्मिन् कूटे हिते नष्टे कृत्तमूले वनः पतौ वितपा इव शुष्यन्ति विष्णुप्राणा दिवौकशः. When the root of the tree is cut and the tree falls down, its branches and twigs automatically dry up. Similarly, when I have killed this diplomatic Vishnu, the demigods for whom Lord Vishnu is the life and soul, will lose the source of their life and wither away. So this is the difference between the demigods and the demons. Demigods always follow the instructions of the Lord, whereas the demons simply plan to disturb or kill the Lord. And what is the other difference? The demigods always want to serve, yeah, which means they are out of compassion. They are even thinking of the welfare of the non-devotees or demons. And demons, they do the other way. They always cause inconvenience to the demigods, to the devotees. तावद्याता भुवं यूयं ब्रह्म क्षत्र समेदितां सूदयध्वं तपोयज्ञ स्वाध्याय व्रत दानिनः. He's saying when this happens, when Vishnu is killed, then what happens? Huh? Go down to the planet Earth, and then you do what? These people who are there, who are maintaining Brahmanical culture and Kshatriya government, these people engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic studies, destroy all the people, whoever is doing like that. So Hiranyakashipu, indirectly, actually, it's not just only to take a revenge that his brother was killed. No, actually, Hiranyakashipu, out of his envy towards the Lord, he wanted to make himself the most powerful. How can he do? He sent all his followers or fellow demons to the planet Earth so that he can cause all the disturbance. He can become. Um, he planned first to kill Lord Vishnu so that with Lord Vishnu's death, the demigods will automatically weaken and die. Another of his plans was to disturb the residents of planet Earth. In that way, he had his plans what to do. And then Vishnu Dvija Kriya Mulo Yagno Dharmamaya Puman Devar Shipitra Bhutanam Dharmasya Cha Parayanam. What will happen with that? The basic principle of Brahminical culture is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the personification of sacrificial and ritualistic ceremonies. Lord Vishnu is the personified reservoir of all religious principles and he is the shelter of all the demigods, the great Pitas, and the people in general. When the Brahmanas are killed, no one will exist to encourage the Kshatriyas to perform yajnas, and thus the demigods, not being appeased by yajna, will automatically die. So he has a pakka plan. यत्र यत्र द्विजागावो वेद वर्णाश्रम क्रिया तंतं जनपदं यात संदीपयत वृक्षत. He is saying, cut down, immediately go wherever there is good protection for cows and brahmanas, and wherever the Vedas are studied in terms of Varnashrama principles. Set fire to those places and cut from the roots the trees there, which are the source of life. So, yeah, purports, I mean, Prabhupada has given very, very elaborate purports in the seventh canto, and especially these Leelas of Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsimha Dev Pastime. Mm. इति ते भर्तर्निर्देशम् आदाय शिरसादृताः तथा प्रजानां कदनं विदधुः कदन प्रियाः. Is saying, thus the demons being fond of disastrous activities took Hiranyakashipu's instructions as what? Shiradharaya, Shirasadharaya. And then according to his directions, they engaged envious activities directed against all the living entities. This is what happened. Pura, Grama, Vrajodhyana, Kshetra, Rama, Sramakaran, Kheta, Karvatta, Goshamcha, Dadahu, Pattanani, Pattanani Cha. So, the capitals. The demigod set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cow pens, gardens, agricultural fields, and natural forests. They burned the hermitages of the saintly persons, the important mines that produce valuable metals, the residential quarters of the agriculturists, the mountain villages, and the village of the cow protectors. The cowherd men, they all burned the government capitals. So all this happened. And Kechit, Khanitrair, Bibhiduhu, Setu, Prakara, Gopuran, Ajivyam, Chichidur, Vrikshan, Kechit Parashu, Panayah. प्रादहन् शरणानि एके प्रजानां ज्वलितोल्मुखैः. And some of the demons took digging instruments and broke down the bridges, the protective walls, and the gates, gopuras of the cities. Some took axes and began cutting the important trees that produced mango, jackfruit, and other sources of food. Some of the demons took firebrands and set fire to the residential quarters of the citizens. एवं विप्रकृते लोके दैत्ये दैत्येन्द्रानुचरैर्मुहुः दिवं देवाः परित्याज्य भुवि चेरुरलक्षिताः. Thus, disturbed again and again by unnatural occurrences caused by the followers of Hiranyakashipu, all the people had to cease the activities of Vedic culture. Not receiving the results of yajna, the demigods also became disturbed. They left their residential quarters in heavenly planets and, unobserved by demons, began wandering on the planet Earth to see the disasters. And Hiranyakashipur bhratu samparetasya dukkhitah kritva katodakani kadini bhratar putran asantavat. After performing the ritualistic observances for the death of his brother, Hiranyakashipu, being extremely unhappy, tried to pacify his nephews. From the verse number 18 to the end, I will just summarize the whole thing, because here we can understand who is Hiranyakashipu. Yeah, just like in Ramayana, we can see how great is Ravana. Here in this context, we can appreciate how great is Hiranyakashipu, the way he is going to pacify his his mother, and and Rushabhanu, the wife of Hiranyaksha. So yeah, here we can see that Hiranyakashipu approaches his mother, his sister-in-law, and nephews, and he said, "Hey, don't lament for the death of great hero." First of all, he glorifies that, yeah, it doesn't befit that someone laments for such a great Kshatriya, I mean, or warrior, great hero. For a hero's death in front of his enemy is glorious and desirable. So this is according to the Kshatriya Dharma. Hiranyakashipu is saying what happened is all fine. And he said, "My dear mother," giving an example. In a restaurant, sometimes some travelers come together, and what happens as part of that? Uh, After that, what happens is that they eat, they drink, and then they move on their respective destinations. Similarly, living entities just join together in a family, and later, as a result of their own actions, they led apart to their destinations. And in fact, the spirit soul has no death. So you see, the intellect of Hiranyakashipu, he is telling to his mother and his sister-in-law that don't worry, to the soul there is no death. Being freed from material contamination, he can go anywhere in the material or spiritual worlds. He is fully aware and completely different from the material body. But because of being misled by misuse of his slight independence, he is obliged to accept subtle and gross bodies. So this is all here talking about the spirit, how this transmigration happens. And then he says, because of the movements of water, the tree on the bank of a river when reflected on water seems to move. Similarly, when the eyes move because of some mental derangement, the land appears to move also. In the same way, O my dear gentle mother, when the mind is agitated by the movements of modes of material nature, although freed from all different phases of subtle and gross bodies, things he has changed from one condition to another. He see again, just because we are in the mode of influence of three modes of nature, that's why we start perceiving everything oh is changing. But soul, come on, it cannot change. In his bewildered state, the living entity accepts the body and mind to be the self, considers people to be his kinmen, and others to be outsiders. So all this is about karma mimamsa. He's saying, hey, we start thinking this is mine, that is yours. There is nothing like that. Thus, we sometimes come to a proper understanding and sometimes fall again into a wrong conception of life. In this regard, now Hiranyakashipu is going to relate an example. He said, "Come on, I'll explain you something that Yamaraj, yeah, once it happened. This involves a discourse between Yamaraj and the friends of a dead person. Yeah? And what happened was in a state called Ushinara, there is a celebrated king called Suyagnya. And this king was killed. And when he was killed, then his wives started lamenting. And when his wives were lamenting, then they were starting to saying, "Oh Lord, now that you have been killed, we also have been killed." This is what so much they have the affection to their husband. So the wives were lamenting like that. Repeating these words again and again, they fell down, pounding their breasts at the feet of the dead king. As the queens loudly cried, their tears glided down and becoming reddened by kumkum powder and fell upon the lotus feet of their husband. All this was happening. "Oh Lord, you have been removed by cruel providence." They started cursing the providence to a state beyond our sight. You had previously sustained the livelihood of inhabitants, and thus they were happy, but your condition now is cause of unhappiness. Anyway, it goes further, and then while it was happening, while the queens were lamenting for the dead body of king, then what happened is Yamaraj assumed a form of a boy, huh? Because he couldn't see what is happening. Yamaraj personally approached the relatives of the dead body and advised them as follows. The boy said, "How amazing it is! These persons who are older than me have full experience that hundreds and thousands of living entities have taken birth and death." Huh? Which means there is a person who takes birth and dies, and so many happen. Thus, they should understand that they are also apt to die. Yet still they are bewildered. And further, he says there is no exception to this rule, which is conducted by material nature. Knowing this, why do they uselessly lament? This is what the boy is talking in front of the women so that they feel what is the truth. It is wonderful that these elderly women do not have higher sense of life than we do. Indeed, we are more fortunate. I mean, interest of time, what I will do is I'll just go to the point. The boy addressed the woman, "O weak woman, only by the will of the Supreme Lord, who is never diminished, is the entire world created, maintained, and again annihilated." And this is the verdict of Vedic knowledge. This material creation consists of moving and non-moving, is exactly like his plaything. So sometimes one loses his money on a public street where everyone can see it, and yet his money is protected by destiny and not seen by others. This is the example given that if sometimes someone may lose money on the street, but if it is his, no one will take it. It's not visible to them. Thus, the man who lost it gets it back. On the other hand, if the Lord does not give protection, even money maintained very securely at home is lost. If the Supreme Lord give one protection, even though one has no protector and is in the jungle, one remains alive. Whereas a person well protected at home by relatives and others sometimes die, no one being able to protect him. So this is what he's saying. And giving further examples, Yamaraj continues saying, "Hey, you are all fools. The person named Suyagnya, for whom you lament, is still lying before you and has not gone anywhere. Then what is the cause for your lamentation? Previously, he heard you and replied to you, but now, not finding him, you are lamenting. This is contradictory behavior, for you have never actually seen the person within the body who heard you and replied." So he's saying it's all about the soul. The so, as long as the spirit soul is covered by the subtle body, consisting of mind, intelligence, and false ego, he is bound to results of his fruitive activities. It is fruitless to see and talk of material modes of nature and the resultant so-called happiness and distress as if they were factual. So, those who have full knowledge of self-realization, who know very well that the spirit soul is eternal, whereas the body is perishable, are not overwhelmed by lamentation. But persons who lack knowledge of self-realization certainly laments. Again, what happens is this boy is telling to the woman of the king that there is once upon a time there was a hunter. What he was doing is he was capturing birds, and by spreading net, he lived as if appointed by death, personified as the killer of the birds. So what he used to do, he used to just catch hold of the birds, and that was what he used to do, eat and sell and whatever. So once what happened is he has killed the Kulinga bird. Yeah, there are a pair of Kulinga birds. Of the two, the female was captivated by the hunter's lure. So the female got caught. And the queens of Suyagya, the boy is telling the male Kulinga bird, seeing his wife put into greatest danger in the grip of providence, became very unhappy. Because of affection, the poor bird, being unable to release her, began to lament for his wife. "Alas, how merciless is Providence! My wife, unable to be helped by anyone, is in such an awkward position and lamenting for me. What will Providence gain by taking away this poor bird? What will be the profit? if unkind providence take away my wife, who is half of my body, why should he not take me also? What is the use of my living with half of my body? Huh? And what shall I gain with this? And then he says, unfortunate baby birds, bereft of their mother, are waiting in the nest for her to feed them. They all still very small and have not yet grown their wings. How shall I be able to maintain them? And then, because of the loss of his wife, Kulinga bird lamented with tears. Meanwhile, while all this was happening, dictation of mature time came that this hunter simply shot an arrow and killed this female Kulinga bird. Thus, Yamaraj, in the disguise of a small boy, told all the queens, "You are all so foolish that you lament but do not see your own death. Afflicted by a poor fund of knowledge, you do not know that even if you lament for your dear husband, for hundreds of years you will never get him back alive, and in the meantime your lives will be finished." Who was narrating this? Hiranyakashipu was narrating this. And Hiranyakashipu said, while Yamaraj in the form of a small boy was instructing all the relatives surrounding the dead body of Suyagya, everyone was struck with wonder by his philosophical words. They could understand that everything material is temporary and not continuing to exist. So after this, then the relatives of Suyagya performed ritualistic funeral ceremony. So Hiranyakashipu is saying, therefore, none of you should be aggrieved for the loss of the body, whether your own or those of others. Only in ignorance does one make bodily distinctions, thinking, who am I? Who are the others? What is mine? What is for others? And saying this, Sri Narada Muni continued, Diti, the mother of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, heard the instructions of Hiranyakashipu along with her daughter Rushabhanu, Hiranyaksha's wife. She then forgot her grief over her son's death and thus engaged her mind and attention in understanding the real philosophy of life. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. I conclude here. As much as possible, I try to keep it short so that if someone want to share anything, they can share, and if there are any questions, we can discuss. So here we can see the transition from Hiranyaksha's end to the beginning of Hiranyakashipu's disturbance he is creating to the world. It's not so easy to do that, especially when he wants to kill Vishnu by breaking his head, and from the blood that comes from the Lord Vishnu's head, um, he want to offer the tarpan to his brother Hiranyaksha. So, but it's not so easy. And for that, we can see what happens in the next chapter. What does he do to 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 try to become successful in his plans? Hare Krishna. Any thoughts? Any comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the nice recitation. And I think the transition was nice, Prabhuji. And the detailing again, as always. I just had one question, Prabhuji. Like you said, like Hiranyakashipu quotes from Bhagavad Gita, and
I'm just telling, not he quotes from Bhagavad Gita. I'm just telling, like,
okay,
whatever he was telling, we can also see it in
okay.
Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, nice, Prabhuji. Yes,
Maybe I
Prabhuji.
should have been more clear.
Oh, no, sorry, Prabhuji. I misunderstood. And also, Prabhuji, like, after Canto 3, there is not a continuation of,
Yeah,
yes, Prabhuji.
yeah, because we can see that there is, of course, in the in the third canto, we see the creation, sub-creation, etc. And
Yes,
as
Prabhuji.
part of the creation comes the description of Swayambhuva Manu, his three daughters, two sons. All that narration comes to this point.
Yes, Prabhuji. That was helpful, Prabhuji. So, this is how the timeline of events also happened, Prabhuji, or it was.
No, in Bhagavatam, we cannot say that this is the sequence. It all we can see in the case of the narration where we come about Dhruva Maharaj, though Uttanapada is younger, but because in his family is Dhruva Maharaj, who is a great devotee, so that was first narrated, and then comes Priyavrata comes later, and then comes daughter. So there's kind of the flow that is driven mainly by the the potent of what Sukadeva Goswami wanted to narrate based on the questions. It's more kind of questions that are asked, answers that are given, rather hey, wait, let me tell everything from A to Z, from start to end. That is not the mode.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. And finally, Prabhuji, I'm sorry, like a lot of short things because just to assimilate things, Prabhuji. Also, Prabhuji, like it was Jaya Vijaya, right? But generally, the glorification of Nrsimha Dev is, and in terms of the detailing of the entire storyline was, we have Prahlad Maharaj, and it's more detailing than Hiranyakshar, right, Prabhuji? So, any specific reason, or is it
You mean
just?
Hiranyakashipu or?
Yeah, for Hiranyakashipu, that character and Nrsimhadev is more, at least to my limited intelligence, it seems to be more, more celebrated by all the, sadhus, because you have Prahlad Maharaj, all these things coming in versus Hiranyaksha, that seems to be like a very short episode, right, Prabhuji? Or,
Okay.
yes, yes.
No, actually, in that we can see the Lord, you mean when we say Varaha, right? Varaha Dev. Um, Of course, if you refer to other Puranas, there is also more details. In the Narasimha Purana also there is more info. One can also know more and more. In Bhagavatam, in the context, we can see here, and when we come to the Mahabhagavat of Prahlad Maharaj, so that's why there are few chapters itself about Prahlad Maharaj. So that's why we can see more content. And in fact, the devotee also is, when we come to that, we can see what are the teachings that he gave. So we can see actually that's why I think in one of previous narrations I was saying, especially in the Nrsimha Dev pastimes, we can see two heroes. Yeah, one hero is Prahlad Maharaj and the other one is Nrsimha Dev. And actually we don't know who is the real hero, or yeah, of course both we can see have so without Prahlad Maharaj, Nrsimha Dev wouldn't appear, right?
Yes, Prabhuji, absolutely. Yes, Prabhuji.
So we
Agree.
can see the bhumika, we can see the role of Prahlad Maharaj is very high.
Yes.
And also it's not just okay any other devotee like Indra or others. Here we can see is the complete Mahabhagavata with all the symptoms, and then he transformed those in his Gurukul. So all these things shows the importance of Prahlad Maharaj, and of course that's why the devotees always would like to glorify devotees, right? So Sukadeva Goswami was sorry, Narad Muni was narrating the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. Why? Because Yudhishthir was asking the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. So in this way, we can see the devotee is ever eager to hear more and more about the devotees, and like Prahlad Maharaj, and that's why we can see a lot available.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Really helpful.
Mhm.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for taking up Nrsimha Dev pastimes, Prabhuji. I don't have any question, but just wanted to say that while you were narrating the pastime, and I was just thinking that as we wanted to know more about the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, similarly the qualities of Hiranyakashipu, like as you mentioned, the envy, the cause of envy, and the revenge. So that I was just thinking that we can pray and meditate on this. That may Nrsimha Dev help us overcome our own inner qualities of Hiranyakashipu. So thank you, Prabhuji, for highlighting Hiranyakashipu's quality also.
That's why I was telling yesterday that um, the enemies inside and outside. So we can see Hiranyakashipu inside and outside of us, in one way or the other. Yeah, and Nrsimhadev is the one whom we take shelter. In fact, I will try to say maybe tomorrow or in coming couple of days about the how Srila Prabhupada emphasizes the worship of Nrsimhadev also in that context. What is
Yes,
the
Prabhuji.
importance of it? Mhm.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for taking up this Leela.
Yeah.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Okay. Okay then. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Nrsimha Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nrsimha Dev Bhagwan ki jai. Hare Krishna.